Welcome to the Conquer Risk podcast. I'm Christopher Norton, Chief Marketing Officer at Potomac. So, with 10,000 people tuning into the first episode, either you really like the new series, the Proust Questionnaire, or you really liked Shauna Ohm. I guess the pressure is on my next guest, Kian Salehizadeh. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks very much for having me.
I think that we should first note that this is the first time we've ever spoken to each other face to face.
Yes. Yep, that's
So,
right. That's right.
Quite the conversation to be having the first time we do this, but I'm excited to dive in. And I also want to thank you for teaching me how to properly pronounce your name, because while I may be a woke bloke in the Bay, I'm also a white kid from Nebraska, and we still have a lot to learn.
Sure, absolutely.
So, I gave Shauna a softball on her first question, but I'm not going to do that to you. So my first question, sir, is what is your absolute greatest fear?
I guess one thing that I'm always concerned about is just unnecessarily burning bridges with people and getting into conflict over things that can be resolved otherwise. So I would say that's probably one of the things that I'm always on the lookout for, and obviously that shows in just the way I handle myself through social media. Trying to be kind of neutral with everything that I do. Trying to be supportive of people as best as I can. So I'd say maybe just conflict in general is always something that is of concern to me.
All right. Well, I came out swinging. So next question, I'll give you a little bit more of a softball. What is your personal greatest extravagance?
Greatest extravagance. So I mean, in my case, I've got a couple of younger kids, and so I'd say just all the stuff that I've ended up buying for them maybe over the years is considered my greatest extravagance. I mean, I in general, I try to live within my means, and I don't spend a lot of money on anything. I mean, we've got a nice house and good cars, things like that, but I'm never flashy with any of the stuff that we have, so I just always try to be very modest. So I would say, yeah, it's probably just been one of the biggest expenditures has been just on all the stuff that I get for the boys. And then outside of that, I'm very much a tech nerd, if you could call it that. So I like, just gadgets in general and staying on top of the latest things that are out there.
I definitely identify with the gadgets too, but definitely with the kids. There's, when it comes to my son, like if there's an adventure to be had, we're gonna have it, and that's pretty much life.
That's right. Yeah, I feel like most of my spending now is really for them. I don't do much for myself anymore, whether that's good or bad. But yeah, that's kind of the current situation.
If my partners were here, she would probably point to cars because that is a weakness of mine. But she's not, so we're going to move right on. What is your? This may seem like a strange question, but what's your current state of mind right now with everything going on in the world, and which is something that feels like it just gets heavier?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say maybe a couple of words. So one would be anxious, just about right, as you said, everything that's going on in the world, especially with just the war now in Ukraine, and being a first generation American, where my parents left their home country because of revolution and just conflict over there, and haven't been back in almost, 40 years now, or 50 years I should say. But so just being anxious about that whole situation. And then on top of that, though, I would also say just being optimistic. I'm always trying to find the silver lining with things, and just trying to hope for the best in people, and then just trying to see that there will be good outcomes with a lot of what's going on.
That sounds like a very healthy and balanced perspective.
Yeah.
One that I think the rest of us strive to accomplish. I know for me as a parent, it that perspective changes because I look at it through that lens, and the Ukraine thing in particular has turned out to be a really unexpected teaching moment with my son. I didn't know what he would think of that, or he's 8, if he would even be old enough to kind of grasp it, but he really has. And we've had a lot of really great conversations that have come out of talking about what's going on and how, if at all, we can help and things like that. And so that's been a surprise, but a good one.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I guess and it's a little different for my kids just because my older one is 6.5 and my younger one just turned 4. So it's been tougher
Sure.
to, I guess, speak with him about some of that, or even the older one at this stage. But you're right. Yeah, it definitely puts things into perspective, and it
War
just
is never a conversation you want to have with your kids, but when they're talking about it at school
correct.
and things like that, you have to, and it's been interesting for
Yep.
sure.
Yep.
All right. Who so since we've been talking about kids, what or who is the greatest love of your life?
I mean, I would say my family at this point. So my wife, we've been together. Let's see, going back to 2000, so 15 years pretty much. Married for 10 this year, but she just helps keeps things going around the house, and then of course the 2 boys as well that we have. I mean, they're a handful, but I would say those are really my main focus in life.
I'm going to say something that I hated when people said before I was a father because I thought it was dumb. Which is I have 2, my partner and my son, and it's such a completely different kind of love that I can't really describe. But the love that I have for my son is so different and unique than the love that I have for my partner, not greater than or less than,
Yep.
but different, and in a distinctive and important way that if I was smarter, I could probably articulate, but I'm not, so I can't and I won't. But I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you're right. It's different between me and my wife, and then me and the boys. But yeah, I would say, I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today without all of them. I mean, of course, life is very different once you have kids, but in a good way, especially overall as you look at things. A lot of challenges, but it all turns out well in the end.
When and where are you happiest?
Yeah, I would say generally, I mean, I try to be positive and happy all the time, but probably the 2 places that I tend to be the most kind of happy are um, no, well, so I do enjoy my work. Let me preface that as well. I'll say, work is definitely interesting and entertaining, but outside of that, I think just interacting with all the friends I've made over the years on Twitter is one spot, and then personally, I would say, on the weekends when I go out with the family, we love to do outdoors types of activities. So whether it's, my older son is starting to get into fishing a little bit, so teaching him that, but just a lot of hiking and biking and so forth. So I think just being outside and taking advantage of the fact that we're in Southern California, that's always fun for me, and I'm really happy when we're doing those types of things together.
I'll ask a selfish follow-up question, which is as an avid hiker myself, um, what are some recommendations you have for Southern California?
Sure. Yeah. So we just, given that our kids are younger, I'd say most of what we do is generally in the vicinity of where we live. But A couple of fun spots that we've liked to go as a family. So one of them is Blue Sky Reserve, which is out in the Poway area. Actually, both of them are in the Poway area, and then that's a pretty easy hike. It's well shaded, lots of trees. It's relatively easy for the kids as well. Not a lot of elevation changes. And then the other one is Lake Poway. And so that's one that's a little more challenging, but we like that area because not only can we do fishing there with the boys, but you can also there's a pretty difficult kind of mountainous hike there that once you get to the top, they call it Potato Chip Rock. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's basically like a little overlook or whatever, but it's like a flat slab of rock that basically sticks out from the mountain and there's nothing underneath it. So people always go and get these crazy photos where they're just literally on the edge and
Awesome.
there's nothing supporting that thing underneath. So you're always nervous that
it's finally going to give way.
yeah, exactly. But that's a much more challenging one, and a lot of people I think enjoy doing that.
Well, through that lens of when and where are you happiest,
Yep.
what is your most treasured possession?
I mean, I'd say, if it had to be one thing, I would probably say our home would be my most treasured possession, just because that's, grateful to have a roof over our heads. And it's where a lot of memories have been made over the years, especially with the kids. And a lot of activity that takes place there, especially with the pandemic going on as well. So there was, a year, almost 2 years where we were spending a lot of time here and just in the immediate neighborhood. So that's, if I had to pick one thing, that's probably what I would say.
That's a great answer, and I think indicative of the life that you lead, because it represents, where life happens, right?
Yep. I mean, I would also say maybe, I mean, I don't want to be one of those people who says their phone, but the reason I would bring that up is just because I use that for not only work, so that's how I make my money, but capturing all of the memories as well, photos, videos, things like that. So that's always important to me too.
It's a tough question, and I don't know. It's not one that I had ever thought of before asking you, so I'm not sure what my answer would be. But if there's a lot of things my son has made for me and my partners have given to me that have a lot of sentimental value. If the place was burning down and I could only grab a couple things, one of them would be this clock right here.
Okay.
It's not particularly valuable, but it belonged to my great grandparents and was given to me by my grandfather, who has had it his entire life. And that's something that I think I would grab just because it has so much history to it.
Yep.
And my family history has always been very important to me and something I want to be able to pass on to my son. So, challenging question. What, in your personal opinion or perspective, is the greatest depth of misery?
I guess, if I had, I'm trying to think here. I mean, I'd say maybe being alone, if I had to pick something. I mean, I know that might kind of sound like an odd answer, but just, because I think I thrive so much off of just a lot of the friendships that I've built over the years, people I've met in the industry and elsewhere, family, friends. I can't even imagine if it was just, if I had nobody to turn to. So I don't know if that's maybe
No,
good
I
answer
think
for people or not, but that's what I would say.
Yeah. I think coming out of the pandemic, a lot of people feel that way, but isolation is a challenging thing. All right, before we wrap, one last fun question. What is, in your opinion, your most marked characteristic?
Well, I was going to jokingly say, so I was going to say, in terms of, if you ask my Twitter followers, it's probably the ability to post biographies of people in 280 characters or less. But I'd say personally, it's probably just something that I think everybody has picked up on is just how social I am, and just how much of an extrovert I am. And I think it kind of surprises a lot of folks, maybe just based off of, I don't know if it's just perceptions or what it might be, but I try to strike up conversations with anyone and everyone, and it doesn't matter the setting. But I think that's just something, especially my family seems to notice that as well. But
That's awesome. Well, hopefully we'll get a chance to actually talk in person sometime and can have one of these conversations face to face.
Yes. No, I know that would be nice. I know, unfortunately, I haven't seen a lot of, I haven't met a lot of the people that I interact with online in person, unfortunately. But even the ones I have, it's been years with most of them. But I know that would be great.
I'm taking my first work-related trip for the first time in 2.5 years come May. So it's going to be, I haven't even met my entire team at Potomac yet. So it's been an interesting journey, but I'm excited to get back to something that looks like normal life again soon.
Awesome. Yeah, no, likewise. You're right. Same thing with me. I mean, I'd say at this point, a majority of my coworkers, I probably have not actually met in person. I mean, between even the San Diego office where I'm based out of, and we have another office in the East Coast. But yeah, it's crazy to me that there's been lots of folks that I haven't met in person. I mean, there were quite a few that I don't even think had been to the office for a long time after they joined the team. We're interesting times.
We're in that added place of we don't even have an office to go to. So being a fully remote company, so we're going to get the whole team together at the end of May, and we're all looking forward to that. I think
that's great. That's wonderful.
Well, Kian, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. This was an absolute pleasure and great to get to know you.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.